to say that was a pretty lackluster applause onto the stage. Can we try this again? That's much better. Okay. It makes you feel better too. So I first wanted to ask, how many people made a New Year's resolution? How many people have already broken it? Okay. How many people made a New Year's resolution based on leadership in some way, shape, or form? One in the back. Okay, Ricardo. It happens to be the two people I know. I don't think that's a coincidence. So what I'm asking is Felix right here, we're gonna make this a little bit interactive. Don't worry, it's not that bad. He's gonna be handing out pieces of paper. You're gonna make a paper airplane, and you're gonna write your name and the one trait you think a beyond now leader needs for today, okay? And then at the end, we're gonna do something. Are you with me? Sort of, yes, thank you. I see some okay. So I'm gonna start off, I'm gonna quickly introduce our speakers. I'm super excited. It's a international, very diverse group of people with different perspectives. So first is Kenza. Kenza is a multi-award winning AI expert and author and one of the top 40 under 40s in Germany. And her real expertise, beyond her role at IBM, although that's where you are now, is AI. And you have a new book coming out titled
Menschen verstehe. Sorry, that's German.
And in English it means?
Human Whisperer.
The Human Whisperer. Yeah. And what I really like about Kenza's work is she's actually written a children's book on AI. So most people can't explain AI, but if you can write a children's book on AI, then you know it. Kim, in the middle here, is a change agent who's an advocate and the global vice president here in Munich for Steelcase, and she does ESG and social impact. She gives presentations around the world around everything from design thinking to social inclusion. She and I met under this real topic of belonging, which I hope we'll talk more about. And then Christian Bason and I have known each other for a while. He has written 8 books on leadership, so you're the most qualified person maybe here from an academic or perspective. And he's at the Danish Design Center, and so really thinks a lot about how to bring design principles into government. How many people in government here right now? Okay, 1. We love public servants, so there we go. So I want to start off, Kenza, with you. What's one thing not in your bio that has informed how you do leadership? And a word. They have a word.
My mom. My mom.
Your mom.
By the way, she actually led our family and led us as children.
And where'd you grow up?
Sorry?
Where did you grow up?
Oh, in Morocco.
In Morocco. Kim, what's the one word thing or one thing about your background that has really shaped you as a leader beyond your bio?
I think if it's just one word, outsider. I'm a Korean-born American that currently lives in Germany, and I always felt like the world was made up of places I didn't belong. So always felt like an outsider and used that to contextualize the world.
Outsider. Mom, outsider. Christian.
Entrepreneurship. So when I was 12 years old, I started a software company with my kid brother, who was 10 at the time. And my brother's name is Peter, and my name is Christian with a C. So we thought we'll call it PC Data. And so PC Data was my first company, and only company so far. But most people don't know that about me, that I'm actually a tech entrepreneur.
Well, that makes sense, what you're doing on design. Now, I want to, Kenza, start with you. What's your one word about why we need different types of leadership now in the 21st century, the beyond now leadership? Why we need it now?
Let me look for the right one. That it is. Change.
Change.
We need to change our system. We need to evolve, and the leadership that we had until now is not really happening. So we need a new type of leadership to be able.
Can you hear her? No. The wonderful people back there, do you mind turning Kenza up? Because we want to hear Kenza. So change. We hope on the next round we'll hear you more. You want to try it again?
Change. In order to be able to tackle the new complex world we're living in and all the new challenges we have, and they cannot be tackled with the leadership we had before. So this is why we need a new one.
Kim.
Collective. So to me, we're at a time right now that we're tackling some of the world's largest issues, and the urgency behind those is critical in these moments, whether that be around people topics, whether that be around planet topics. To me, everything is about that. And in order to do that, we really need to start to build movements within our organizations. We need to build movements within our communities. Instead of just delivering solutions, we need to empower people.
One of the things, though, just to push, I think, some of the people here, is we've heard speakers talk about how the trend is all about the individual at a time where you need to talk about a collective. And I think this is a leadership challenge, right, when the individuals are so held up when we need to work together. How about you, Christian?
Well, so my word is imagination. And I could maybe say collective imagination, that maybe the biggest crisis we're facing is really not necessarily only war and conflict or climate change or mental health, but it's actually the ability to imagine a better future. And so my book number 8 is called Expand, co-written with Jens Martin Skibsted. And basically we wrote a book about the future of design because we need to think differently about the future. We need to stimulate our collective imagination.
Anyone want to say their one word about why we need leadership to change now? Raise your hand, please play with me, audience. Yeah. Empowerment. Anyone else? Why we need changing now? One more? Ricardo, thanks for raising your hand. Are you paying attention? He's my friend. I can call on him. Ricardo. Empathy. Empathy. Well, that's a good move to you, Kenza. So I'm going to go to you. What is your superpower with leadership? I know that might be uncomfortable saying what your superpower is or not. Is it uncomfortable to say what your superpower is?
No,
you're fine.
It is. I like it. I'm looking for it. There it is. There it goes. Energy, and actually positive energy. So I'm someone who's very energetical, and that helps my team. The problem is when I have a bad day and my energy is not there, they don't have energy either. So that is the flip side of it.
Any tips for the audience? I mean, there's a sleep researcher here. Is she in the audience talking about how bad sleep deprivation is for your energy? What is your kind of health tip to have more energy? Sleep, the power of sleep. How many people sleep 8 hours a night?
I need
Wow, very few. 7, 6, 5, 4.
Oh.
You're dying. You know, if you don't sleep, it makes you fat, dumb, and ugly, and you'll die. But anyways, anybody else, 8 hours of sleep. How about you? What is your superpower, Kim?
I think my superpower is action.
Action.
So to me, we go to these types of events, we really work with our teams, and so much of it is focused on coming up with the next idea, the next big idea. How are we going to coalesce ideas? But for me, it's really getting those ideas into action. Part of it too, and it goes back to that collective, here. It goes back to that collective action. So not only are we talking about individual action, it's really designing with people. And at a moment in time, if you're going to start building movements, if you're going to start changing the world, if you're actually going to keep your commitments to sustainability, to the planet, to making sure that people are thriving, you need to start rethinking the systems that we're living in. And to get there, you need to design with people and not for people. And that is such a paradigm shift as we think about when we're building new innovations, when we're starting to rethink what we're putting out into the world. Have you actually gone into community? Have you understood the cascading impacts of the things that we're doing? So that action is critical.
We heard from the audience a why is empowerment. As you talk about collective action, any tips or experiences you've had in actually empower? A lot of people talk about empowerment, but it's empty often. What really works in empowering people?
Well, you have to have them at the center of all your decisions. And when I say that, one of our norms within our teams, within the work that we do, is that we're accountable to the people that we serve. So no matter what we do, we open up each meeting revisiting our norms. We use power to share power. We're accountable to the communities that we serve. We're for people. When we start to root ourselves in these norms and understand what empathy looks like, what empowerment looks like, if you're actually in community working side by side, not just with your individual team members, but the people in the community that are going to be using your products, impacted by the solutions that you're coming up with on the front end of innovation, it shifts and changes everything.
So this is going from design. You run the Danish Design Center. You've worked a lot on design. I want to hear your superpower and maybe a little bit about, I'm going to throw this at you, like what's counterintuitive about empowerment or design that people might not be thinking about?
Right, so I think my key word would be setting people free, or freedom, which is connected, of course, to empowerment. But the paradox, I think, is that in order to create flourishing, sustainable human organizations that are also creating a flourishing, sustainable human, but also a sustainable world in terms of environment, in terms of climate change, we actually have to let go of control. So even though we want to work so hard and sleep so little to create a more sustainable world, to put our products or services out there, there can be a feeling that we have to somehow control it. But the more control, the less impact. And the more letting go of control, the more setting people free in organizations. My own organization, everybody chooses their own leader once a year. Everybody chooses to vote with their feet and choose their area of work freely. Everybody is empowered to pursue what they feel and think with their collective, with their colleagues, is where they can make most of an impact. That is a massive, massive loss of control. But the paradox is that by letting go, we can do so much more, because we don't have less leadership now, we have much, much more leadership. And so I think the challenge is to create a sustainable world. We need more sustainable and human organizations.
I work on how do we bring the next generation 21st century politicians in, and one of the things, Ricardo over here has co-founded an organization in Portugal that does that, new and different people, and we think about what are the politicians we need for the 21st century. And one of the words that we think a lot about is politicians, instead of being the leader or the head, to be facilitators of the people, to really flip the script. That doesn't come easy, right? The traditional role of thinking of politician is command and control. And sometimes there are moments when you need that, but you need to have the dial to also be massively facilitative. Okay, I'm gonna ask you to turn to the person next to you and tell them, this could be very uncomfortable for people, but just go with me, what your superpower is with leadership. Stefan's on his phone, but he's gonna talk to Matthias. Sorry, he's inside the front. It's okay. What's your superpower in leadership? Tell the person next to you in a word. Okay, how about the four ladies in the front? I see you're having a good conversation. What is your word? What was your superpower? One more time. Trust. Energy. 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 We got a lot of energy over there. Trust and energy. Here we go. Now we're going to go to the other side, which, being a good leader today, also means you're reflective, self-reflective on what you suck at. So I asked Kenza, Kim, and Christian. I'm going to start with you, Christian. What do you suck at, your leadership, and what are you doing about it?
Right, so I hereby disclaim that I suck at micromanagement. But I realize that when it comes to budgets and to our board meetings and to other such things, sometimes micromanagement and some degree of control can be maybe a good thing. And so what I do is I realize my very limitation, and then I surround myself with great people where I have colleagues around me that are very, very, very good at micromanagement. And that gives some very interesting tensions sometimes, but in a good way. And so I supplement what I cannot do with people.
So you've given up trying to improve that in yourself.
Yeah.
Instead you've outsourced it.
Yes.
You're like, I just got to the point where I'm not going to be good at that. That felt a little bit like a humble brag, like I suck at micromanagement. Like, who would ever brag about being good at micromanagement? I'm going to let that pass for a minute. Kim, what do you suck at, and what are you doing about it?
I think we should ask Anna in the crowd here, who actually works for me, because she could have a really honest.
Anna, stand up. Where is she, Anna? What does she suck at?
Oh, no.
Can someone telephone that up? Come on up. Just run up quickly. Let's really do this to Kim. What does she suck at as your manager? I mean, leaders are adaptive. You can take feedback. This is like a 360 live. Anna, what does she suck at? She says it's difficult for people to read her. Anna, before you leave, what is she really good at?
Sharing power.
Sharing power. It's pretty good.
Beautiful.
Round of applause for Anna. There you go. I think you just got a raise. I don't know if you're How about you, Kim? What do you suck at in your...
Oh, I adore Anne. Patience. Definitely patience, because we have this moment in time where we need urgent action. And this urgent action that happens, I have little patience for barriers in the way of progress. So I get, I'm a little like a bulldozer when it comes to forward motion. But if you're trying to build a movement, if you're trying to build collective action, you need that urgent optimism. So I really try to build in those scaffolds to understand we need to start bringing people along with us, understanding that I want action and I want action now.
Do you have any insights on when you're too patient? Like when do you just have to not be patient anymore?
Yeah, I don't think anyone said that about me.
Yeah.
It's the opposite, right? So this is why I suck at this. I think there are moments when we start to create us versus them societies, right? So we live in a time of political polarization, when we live in a time of organizational polarization, whether it's within functions. Design says this, finance says this, talent management says this, and then it becomes us versus them instead of us collectively actually having to work there to get there. And one of our norms on our team is we do what's right, not what's easy. And this is a really hard norm to adhere to if you know that patience is one of those things that's going to trip you up each time. Because by doing what's right, sometimes you have to take the slower road. Sometimes you have to take the more collaborative road. But all good progress can't be done by consensus. And I think it's really important to understand and balance those moments of tension of, hey, we're not going to get everyone on the same page of this, but we definitely need the forward action and the forward momentum. So let's commit to doing the right thing, not the easy thing, and we'll get there.
The right thing and not the easy thing, yeah? How about you, Kenza? What do you suck at and what are you doing about it?
It's actually a good mixture of both. So I wrote micromanagement as Christian, but the female version of it is I suck at formulating expectations. And this is maybe also a cultural thing. So my way of empowering people is just to say, okay, we need to get this done, and that's it, and I stop there. But I work in Germany, so people expect me to define exactly what I mean, and that makes me impatient. So this is something I can't really handle. I'm trying. So my way of working on this and improving it is to prioritize. So when I feel this is something really important and I need to invest effort in writing down my expectations or explaining them more so that the things get done and my team is not frustrated, I do it. And for other things that I believe are not that important, I just say, no, you find a way, and I'm not negotiating. And I'm impatient, so leave me alone.
What I find interesting about all the strengths and weaknesses is these are the same. We could have had this conversation 25, 30, or 50 years ago. And are we getting better collectively? Are we just repeating the same mistakes over and over again? I don't know. I want you to turn to the person behind you and say what you suck at. Matthias Elke is right behind you. She's looking forward to it. What do you suck at as a leader?
Oh,
No, everybody's turning. Lisa,
it's
you
hard to
didn't
self-organize.
think this through. If they all turn.
They turning? He's not turning. He's sticking. He sucks at following directions. Just kidding. Just giving him a bad time. Just giving him a bad time. Okay, do we have a brave person to stand up and say what they suck at? There you go. Stand up. What do you suck at? Listening. Anybody else suck at listening? Like really listening? Like deeply listening? Everybody else is great at listening. I don't know if they hear me now, but they're doing it. What do you suck at? Yeah. Listening to your intuition, trusting, yeah? Anybody else? Let's hear from a guy. We want to be gender equal here. Any guys? How about you?
I'm the most impatient person I know.
Impatient person. So impatience is not a virtue to you, or is it? No, it's not. Okay, so I want you to get ready. You're going to have your paper airplanes ready. You're going to write the word, the most important trait for Beyond Now leadership. And at the very end, we're going to throw it with a name, and you're going to find one and try to find that person. But let's do the last speed round. Practical advice maybe counterintuitive, try not to be so obvious, about how to, Kim, I'm gonna go to you first, about how to be a better leader today. I noticed no one talked about technology, actually, in any way, shape. This is like deeply human fundamental traits. What's your best advice, things that have worked for you, in a word followed by, or just you can say it?
Yeah, for me, I think the one key takeaway is if you're trying to seed that culture of innovation, the first thing that you have to focus in on, or the only thing that you have to focus in on, is belonging. We really need to see each other. We need to see our team members. We need to see through large organizations and small organizations, not just for the ecosystem, but for the individuals that make up each of our ecosystems. And to do that, and to get lasting change, to build a culture of belonging, we're going beyond diverse cultures. We're going beyond equitable cultures. We're going beyond inclusive cultures. The culture that we're actually trying to build is that everyone that would show up in that environment feels like they're going to belong. In those physical spaces, in those digital spaces, that people can be their true and authentic selves, because without that, you're not going to have the trust, you're not going to have the safety for anything to survive. Not only for individuals to stay at your organizations, but for ideas to grow and thrive. So really, that culture of belonging is key.
So critical. If you see the rise of autocrats, one of the reasons they're so good is they create a culture of belonging, of the othering. It's effective. And how do you use that same belonging in a more positive way, in a more inclusive way? And the successful politicians on the other side, on Democratic sides, think about the politics of belonging. So definitely do. Christian, what's your advice?
Yes, I was going to say read more science fiction or read our book Expand. But basically, I think that there's a very big piece of work around organization, around belonging, trust, inclusion. But there's also a work around where are we going and where do we want to go. And so this lack of imagination that I mentioned before is about, as we innovate, as we design, as we bring in technology, based on what values, based on what vision of the future, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, the next generation, where are our children going to be? What will be a day in the life of a child, of a young adult, 20, 30 years from now? What kind of world are we building? Not so long ago, my teenage daughter was sitting for 5 hours in the sofa with some social media, and she was just with a screen, and I looked at her and I say, I just don't understand what world you're in. And my girl Julia, she answered, it's the world that you built, Dad. And that kind of struck me a little bit, that we have built a world that's really not working very well. And it's up to us, also in this room right now, in this panel, to design a world for the future that is working better. So that's what we have to think about.
A friend of mine said one of the reasons why the status quo is holding so much is we're not hospicing or giving funerals to the old ideas. So how do you actually say, this idea isn't working, let's have like a ritual to say, this worked for the time, there was nothing wrong with that, that was good then, it's not good anymore, thank you very much, how do we move on? And how do you move past the derivative thinking to expansive different thinking? And that requires reading science fiction. I just reread Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and the answer is? 42, right? And going back to just really stretching, Ministry of the Future, your new book, get yourself out of the derivative thinking. Very quickly, Kenza, advice.
Emotional intelligence.
Emotional intelligence. Can you learn it, or are you born with it?
Oh, you can definitely learn it. You can definitely learn it. Things you are born with, but self-regulation, empathy, all of this you can learn, and we need it.
We need it. So with that, I want you to stand up and throw your paper airplane. Yes. She listened. You said you had trouble listening. There you go. Grab it. Oh, some bad designing. There we go. Designing. Try to grab it and find someone. There we go. There we go. So with that, I want to thank everyone. And we cannot do Design Life Digital if we don't work on our own personal leadership. Thank you very, very much. Thank you.